Well, bakers, I have some exciting news. Need to Know, the first baking entertainment podcast, is back. After a few years of taking a break, I'm excited to say that we are coming back with brand new episodes. Please join me, Gemma Stafford, and my co-hosts, Ami Shukla and Tiana Cohn, as we count down to new episodes by sharing some of our favorites from the past.
Let me tell you something. What you do need to do, and this is super important, is when it comes to a dessert like a brownie, something really like denser, heavier, usually a chocolate recipe, like a pound cake or something like that, pop that into the microwave. If you don't have a microwave, pop it into the oven. Just like let it like heat through like 30 seconds, something like that. Just just take the chill off. Let it kind of like, it'll get like warm. It'll get fudgy again. It will get like really yummy. Always microwave your brownies. I mean, I can't stress that enough, people. Microwave your brownies.
Oh my gosh.
It's very important.
And while you wait, watch an episode of The Office.
I watched an episode of The Office. Wait, what are you waiting for? Oh, to microwave your brownie.
You're like, I forgot about the brownie. I was just watching The Office.
And actually saying that, Mia, was on the topic of brownies, we have, we just did a huge bulk shoot here that we were covering all of our spring recipes. And we have 3 different types of brownies, and you'd kind of think a brownie is a brownie, but you could not be further from the truth, because we have I'll let you in a little secret. We've got crinkle top brownies. You know, when you make brownies and you get that lovely shiny crinkle top, we have those coming. Ooh. We have a homemade version of boxed brownies. So it's like everything you love about boxed brownies, but it's all homemade, good ingredients. And then, gosh, what's the other one? Oh, chewy brownies.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love anything
we already
fudgy.
have fudge brownies on the website. So there's a lot of brownies coming your way.
Oh my gosh. All the things brownies. You heard it. Yeah. biggerbolderbaking.com. Speaking of, anything new with Bigger Bolder Baking?
Yeah, we've been busy here. I just last week the last few weeks we have been doing bold baking worldwide. I don't know if you've seen that, but every Monday we're choosing a recipe from around the world and we're showcasing it, and we're showcasing different cultures. We're getting behind just a little bit of the history, the origin of it, and we just filmed a whole lots more, and I'm really excited about it because I never would have had these recipe. I never would have tried these desserts if we hadn't been doing bold baking worldwide. But so far we have done sticky toffee pudding. I'm trying to say, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking now. But what we have coming up is baklava. We have lovely Indian dessert that's with yogurt and cardamom. We actually have matzo crackers for Passover, and we have buñuelos. I hope I pronounced that right. Forgive me if I didn't. Coming for Cinco de Mayo, which are these beautiful fried cinnamon sugary dough, like really yummy. Like, so we've loads of stuff lined up. So every Monday, biggerbolderbaking.com, we've got a new bold baking worldwide. And if there's any, I am open to suggestions. So if any suggestions that people have, they want to see their country represented, like absolutely just send me some ideas, because I would love them.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I love that Bigger Bolder Baking is just so global and inclusive. We love it. So when we return from this little break, we're going to be chatting with Zoe François. Stay tuned. Thanks for coming, Gemma.
Bye, Mia. See you later.
Bye. See you soon. All right, everyone, pull up your seats to At the Counter, a segment where we have a conversation with people who are doing interesting and amazing things in baking. And today we have the fabulous Zoë François here from Zoe Bakes. She's a pastry chef, a cookbook author, most recently a TV host for Discovery Plus. How freaking cool is that? She has her own book, Zoe Bakes Cakes, coming out next month, literally so soon, when she's not teaching baking courses. Nationally, she's developing pastry menus for award-winning restaurants. Amazing. Please welcome Zoe. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you. It's so good to have you here. We're so excited. And I don't know if you picked up on this, but I wore flannel just for you because I officially dub you queen of flannel. Nobody rocks a flannel like you. I'm not kidding. I woke up and I was like, this is what I'm wearing.
I know, I was checking it out. I'm like, I don't think I have that one yet. I have about 30 of them, so I can't believe I don't have it.
Oh my gosh, I love this. We're going to do a clothes swap. I can't wait. We'll save that for later. But okay, first question. I'm so excited to ask you this.
Yes.
So I read that you grew up on a commune in Vermont, which is so cool in the 1960s. So as you said this, you said it was a time when living off the land, so keeping bees and making granola were radical ideas for most Americans. So we want to know, what is you think the most radical thing you did while living on the commune?
Well, it's so funny because like at the time it was radical, but I was a child. So to me, it was just normal. You know, I mean, we grew all of our own food. We raised bees and all of, you know, we had farm animals and we collected maple syrup and we made absolutely everything. We had a geodesic dome because, of course, you know, no commune is complete without one. And in it, we made candles out of the beeswax that we then sold. So, I mean, it was just all, now it's sort of in vogue, but, you know, at the time, nobody else was doing that. So we even my dad even made food at Woodstock. So that was my very first concert when I was like 2 years old. So it was a pretty incredible childhood, but it just seemed normal to me.
Oh,
as childhoods do, you know?
You are officially the coolest person I know. Thank you. And I also love that you
think that's my parents were the coolest. For sure.
Yes, they're queen and king cool. And the fact that you also made a hand crushed peanut butter, I think that's my favorite thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because I too love peanut butter. So
yes,
very exciting.
Everything, you know, and I so did not appreciate it because, you know, we were making like whole grain, homemade breads and homemade peanut butter. And so peanut butter and honey sandwiches were like, you know, everything. And then I get to kindergarten and somebody whips a Twinkie out of their lunchbox. And I am like, what is this? What just happened to my world? So I went home and I'm like, you people have been holding out on me.
Did you try the Twinkie?
Oh, yes. Of course I tried it. Yes. It was a revelation for sure. You know, because they had told me that raisins were candy. I mean, and carob was chocolate. And it was like, it was a lie.
Oh my gosh, what a world. And you know, growing up, you grew up in Vermont and you also, so your first job in the food industry was, wait for it, as an ice cream cake maker. I love ice cream cake at Ben & Jerry's. So we all want to know, there's a few of us here on the team that are huge ice cream fans. Was this the dream job? What was that like? Please tell us.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Ben & Jerry's was, you know, it was a brand new company. It was just like the one store. And we had one ice cream churner in the window of the shop and all the ice cream came out of that. I mean, this is pre Ben & Jerry's in every store. And, you know, I would scoop ice cream, but then they sat me down in front of an ice cream cake and said, decorate that. And I can tell you the first one I did, I really feel bad. I wish I could find those people who got my very first cake and apologize. But, you know, it was such a dream. Like once I figured out how to handle a piping bag, I had so much fun. And by the end of the job, I was really pretty good at it. But that first cake must have been, I wish I had a picture of it. It must have been a nightmare.
If the person who received that cake is listening, please come forward.
I know.
We bet it was honestly probably still amazing. That's what I think.
I highly doubt that, but something. It was something.
Oh my goodness. And so, you know, you did that and then, you know, you grew up and you just loved baking and you started, you said, which I love too, you didn't have cookbooks, but then once you found them, you were like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And then your boyfriend at the time, who is now your husband, this might be my favorite part of your story, is that he built the vending cart for your very first business, Zoe's Cookies, which started as a business assignment for a class in college. So will you tell us this sweet story? Because I love this.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yes. So I was an art student and required to take a math class, which was a challenge for me. And so I ended up taking like a business accounting class as my math class. And they gave an assignment to start a fictional business. And so I started Zoe's Cookies just on paper because I was obsessed with, Mrs. Fields. I don't even know if anybody would know what that is anymore.
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
And then, so I was obsessed with her cookies and I was like, okay, so I started it on paper and I realized this is way cooler than school. So I went to work developing some recipes, and Graham, my then boyfriend, now husband of 30 years, built me this beautiful cart, and I would roll my cookies out onto Church Street and sell them. And I didn't lose money. I didn't make a ton, but I didn't lose any. And then that was only one semester. And then I went back to school and graduated. But it was my foray into this world. I didn't know it at the time that I would become a pastry chef, but it was so much fun and so much work.
Oh,
I made all of those cookies in his apartment oven, which is a half size, so maybe 20 inches wide. And I would just make batch after batch after batch. I would wake up at like 3 a.m. and it was crazy town. But it was so much fun.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that you didn't have any idea really. Like you were like, I'm going to be a pastry chef one day. And that really, would you say that was kind of the spark?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. I think the very first batch of cookies I had bought myself, I invested in a KitchenAid. It was brand new at the time. I still have it. So it's 35 years old. But I threw a 1 pound block of almost frozen butter into the machine and just ground that engine right to a halt. And I had to march the machine back down to the store, and they sent it back and they rebuilt the engine with a professional, like really strong engine. And they said, please never do that again, which I never did. But I had no clue what I was doing. It was all trial and error. And I made every single mistake in the book. And then eventually I went off to culinary school and they taught me a thing or two, so that I didn't have to like learn it the hard way. But it was an adventure. It was such an adventure.
What a journey. And now look at you. You've authored, you have your new book coming out, like I said, this next month, which I'm very excited about.
Yes, me too.
But I know, I can't wait to talk about it. But I want to go back first though. You've co-authored, is it 7 books? Or they have 7 editions, right?
Yes. So we're about to, in the fall, put out our 8th book together. Yeah, it was like, who knew? We wrote the first one and I did it as an adventure because I'd never written a book before, and I was staying home with my 2 boys, and I thought this will be an experience. And here we are 8 books later. And so the cake book that I just did is my first solo book and my 9th one. So
oh my gosh. And you said, I saw on Instagram too, that you said about your book coming out, Zoe Bakes Cakes, that you're excited about the Cake Academy chapter. Tell us. Why is that? I'm excited.
It's, so what I've learned, and partly because of this whole wild world of Instagram, I've always been a teacher. Like I started teaching pretty early in my pastry profession. And so I've had like in-person classes, and then I got introduced to Instagram, and I would put up these photos of my cakes or my cookies or whatever I was making, and people would like them, but they weren't baking them. And then I discovered video. And so I started putting up videos, and I realized that when I could teach people, when I could share the sort of tips and tricks that I knew from working in professional kitchens and decades of baking, they would make the recipes. So of course, so in my book, I put all of that, all that I know. And so it's a little bit of a geekery, it's like all the cake geek stuff that I love so much. So people can dip into it if they want to know. Like, one of the things that I hear a lot is like people have their grandmother's recipe, but it doesn't quite come out the same way as when she made it. And so I want people to have enough food science, enough of those tips and tricks that they can take their recipes and make them consistently and as well as their grandmother had or their mom or whoever gave them the recipe. So it's just sharing everything that I've learned along the road. And so that's the part. I mean, the recipes are awesome.
I love the cover, by the way.
Oh,
the cover's so cool.
Thank you. The recipes are awesome, and you don't have to dip into this cake academy, but I think it's exciting. I think, people are going to learn stuff from being in there. So, and it's a whole separate chapter, and it's different colors so that you can find it easily. So yes, I am super excited about it.
Oh my gosh. And you mentioned too, a big part, I guess, for this book was Instagram kind of inspired you in a way, because you were putting out, and I've seen a lot of your highlights and all your videos. Do you film them yourself? Because they're very aesthetically pleasing.
Oh,
I could scroll forever.
Wow. And I know you got did you get your BFA in photography?
Well, I had it. I did study photography, but also painting and generally all the arts. I didn't really find my medium in art school. I found it once I discovered food. So I always knew, I always felt at home with the artist, but I never knew what my medium was until I discovered food. So really, yes, I did study photography. But until I was shooting food, I didn't really feel like I got it.
Yeah. And now that's crazy. It all worked out. And that's, you get to shoot what you love now. And another thing, it makes sense. I just feel like you're a very artsy and artful person. And one thing I also love about your videos is that your playlist that you make, like you made a Cinnamon Swirls playlist, and I saw you put on the Donna Summers eyeshadow, and you played disco, and your playlist and just your taste, every single video has a different song playing in the background. It's amazing. So what are you listening to while you're baking right now? What's your favorite thing to listen to?
So it's so funny because a different recipe will evoke a different feeling or a different memory. So I was making carrot cake with these candied carrot peels, and it made me think of the commune days. And so Joni Mitchell. So of course it had to start with Joni Mitchell, but then it almost always ends up with Drake or Lord or, you know what I mean? It's it's just the playlist is bonkers. It goes from literally 70s, music to hip hop, and I'm dancing around the kitchen. So there's no making sense of what's happening in my brain.
Yeah. I mean, the Maggie Rogers, the Dua Lipa, it all, which I really, really appreciate. It's fantastic. And so speaking of, just cooking it up, baking it up, dancing it up in the kitchen, you don't just make content for your Instagram and of course for your book, you also work with your son, Henry, right? He started a YouTube channel called Baking with My Mother. So how did that come together? Because I think that's so cool.
It's really fun. So I have to say that when we were filming the show, Zoe Bakes for the Magnolia Network, he and my other son, Charlie, got involved. And Charlie's always been a baker. Like ever since he was little, he would bake with me. But Henry would run. He would always come back to eat it, but he wanted no part of the process. And then when we did the show together and he got involved more, he discovered that he actually liked it. So he's the one that came to me and said, will you teach me how to bake? And I could not be happier. It only took me like 21 years to get him interested.
It's a good start. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it's so much fun. I mean, part of it is the times that we live in. I got this, we live in this really wild time in history where I have all this time with my son, which never would have happened in any other time. So I'm really grateful and it's a blast.
Oh my gosh. It's so fun.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. I don't know how long it'll last, how long he'll be here, but as long as he's here, I'm taking full advantage.
Oh my gosh. It's really, I really recommend anyone listening watch. It's such a hoot and it's really fun to see the bond between you two. But speaking too of these times, one thing immediately that I thought of when, we were going to have this chat today is the fact that sourdough bread just boomed. People were making it so much during the pandemic. And, this is what you wrote your first 7 and almost 8 books on. So what was, you've been you're the queen of bread. You've been baking bread forever. But what is something that you were baking a lot during the pandemic or that you've been baking?
Well, I mean, everything. It's just, when we wrote our books, sourdough is something that's just really catching its stride during COVID. Our books were all about making bread accessible because when I started out, especially when I started teaching like 25 years ago, people would sooner make a 5-tiered wedding cake before they'd make a single loaf of bread because they thought it took too long. It was too intimidating. The yeast was scary. So our bread books were more about sharing our joy and the fun of bread baking and making it accessible to people. So for me to watch this explosion of bread baking is such a joy, and where people are taking it is incredible. For me, I bake based on my mood, based on what's in season. So my baking is all over the place. I mean, I love to bake bread. I do it all the time, but I also love cake, obviously, and cookies and, everything. I mean, there isn't anything out there that I don't love to bake. So it just depends on the mood that I wake up with in the morning.
I love this. And one thing I also love and I really want to bring up is for these books, you took a photo. I think you know the one.
Yeah.
And it's maybe the best. It's maybe the best I've seen on the internet. And it's you and I think it's your co-writer and you're throwing bread. It's literally raining bread. So please tell us the story behind this photo because I don't
even know. You really did some digging because I don't know that many people have seen this photograph. It's hilarious. So that was at a photo shoot for that was our 5th book, I think. Mm-hmm. And we rented this giant warehouse and the photographer had come in, and the way that these photo shoots work is that you bake all the bread that you're going to shoot. We had 100 recipes, and so we probably had 500 or 600 loaves of bread that we had to bake for this photo shoot. And at the end, I mean, it's intense. These days are intense. And so we're shoot, and then we're done, and we're just like, woo, and we're like celebrating. And then all of a sudden, we have all this bread in front of us, and we tossed it up in the air, set the timer, and the photographer and Jeff and I just threw all the bread up in the air, and it's just raining down on us, probably 100 loaves of bread.
Oh my gosh.
So it was just, the joy of being done with this intense week of baking and shooting. And it's hilarious that you found that one.
Oh, it brought me so much joy. So thank you. I genuinely saw it and I felt the energy. I was like, I'm going to go home and do this. Thank you. So before we wrap up, and there will be a speed round, which is my favorite part. Very fun. I want to know about you. So tell us something we don't know, like besides baking and, your family, I know means so much to you. What brings you joy outside of baking?
Well, right now that's a tough one because it's travel. Yeah. I love to travel. I travel to eat. I travel, to be inspired by art. I would say art and travel are the two things that inspire me the most. And dance. There's a lot of dancing that goes on behind the scenes here. My neighbors and we've all been quarantining for a year, like really, really doing it. And so we moved the furniture out of my neighbor's house, and we had 6 feet apart, a disco ball, turned on the music, and we had a teeny little dance party because we just needed it.
Oh my gosh.
So it was super fun. But yeah, so dance, art, and travel.
Oh, I think we're kindred spirits. I love these. I love how creative your soul is. It just makes it, hearing all of this and just hearing your story, it makes sense how it all connects just from, your love for music and, living on the commune and using what you had, like using the land to, make a life, and how you do that now and how it's translated. And your energy is just so beautiful. And I can't thank you enough for being here, for telling us your story. But before we head out, we're going to do the speed round. So I'm going to ask just like a list of quick questions. Don't think too hard. Just spout out the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. On the count of 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Your favorite baking utensil?
Danish dough whisk.
Ooh, favorite childhood treat?
Twinkies.
Your favorite late night snack?
Ice cream.
Yes. Favorite baking show?
My favorite. Oh, there's so many. My favorite bake, probably the British Bake Off.
Oh, so good. And your favorite person to bake for?
Oh, my kids.
And your favorite
my husband.
Yes, Graham. And your least favorite baking question?
Oh, my least. I don't know if I have one. No. Oh, yes, I do. I have it. Can I substitute all of the ingredients?
No. Is that your answer? No.
And your number one baking lesson?
My number one baking lesson? I'm not sure I understand. What does that mean?
So what's like one thing that you've learned in baking that's your favorite thing that you've learned?
Oh, okay. My number one baking lesson. Oh my goodness. Temperature, like the temperature of ingredients. So important.
Ooh, good to know.
All right.
Yes.
And there
so
you
simple,
have it.
but so easy. Yes.
Oh,
okay.
Gosh. Magic. We have it. Honestly, you win. You have definitely finished just the fastest, I think, out of anyone so far. Yeah, you really said what came to mind, which I love. That's amazing. So thank you for joining us, Zoe. So where can we find you online?
Oh, you can find me at Zoe Bakes on Instagram. You can find me at Zoe Bakes everywhere, including the Magnolia channel. That's the name of my TV show as well, is Zoe Bakes. And you can find my books at all bookstores. And Zoe Bakes Cakes comes out March 16th. So I can't wait to see what everybody creates from it. So thank you.
Thank you.
This was a joy.
Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this classic episode of Need to Know. And remember, brand new episodes are coming your way this September, so get ready.